Hi, it's Warren Whitlock here with Emerging Technology with Warren. Today's episode, synthetic biology and programming life. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard about it. Test tube babies and all sorts of other things can be designed in the future. Let's not get into quite the that sort of a thing, but I'd like to talk to you today about why we're able to use biology and synthetic biology created in labs to be able to make life better for everybody, and some of the cautions that I think we should have on the topic. First of all, let's explain what that is. But if you just lived in a world where we only dealt with what comes out of the ground naturally, that would be no agriculture, just be trying to find food, foraging for it wherever we could, and maybe be able to build something out of wood. Most of the things that we do to change the world, we have to change things that are growing into something else. And for centuries now, we've had the science has resolved how in botany, how to take one species of plant and put it with another one, or one color of a flower and mix it with another one to come up with the right color of a new color of a rose, something like that. These kind of things have been done for many centuries and sometimes millennia. The best fruit is manipulated so that it tastes the same. There's bananas that are normally eaten come from a clone of a certain tree and are not diverse. They're not just naturally what grows. It's very much designed. And most things with seeds today are controlled and manufactured in a way that we get things different than just what would come out of the ground. If even without GMOs, which is actually changing the genes in the seed, just mixing things together and calling to the very best. The best dog breeds are breeds like that. The best horses are bred for racing or something else. And so we've been doing this kind of thing all along. The jump here comes when we move to something that is actually changing the genetic material. And that's what we're talking about with synthetic biology. So I don't think it's much different than how we programmed before. We just have a lot more precision. With that comes the caution that you don't want to go trying to create totally new species, though I did see something about a woolly mouse where they've taken genes from a woolly mammoth and mixed it with the mouse. Not much use for that, but can be done. And there's things like, can we grow a more human acceptable organ in a pig that so we can get more of the parts we need for people? I don't know. Some of that it gets into the creepy line and maybe crosses it. But there are some concepts here that we need to understand, because a lot of this is going to be the future and it's going to be better for all of us. When you have a strand of DNA, it is basically the code by which whatever the biological item is, us or any germ or anything, is built. It follows the DNA. Understanding that DNA and the other things that go along with it allow us to work with precision and not do things like experimenting what happens if you cross a monkey with a frog, which is as unnatural as that sounds. But if we were able to take some genes from a plant and insert it into something for a monkey, we might be able to cure a disease. And a lot of the disease cures we've talked about on this program for use that sort of thing. You probably have heard of mRNA. That's a way to program what's going to happen inside of a cell to change some of the genes so the outcome is different. My favorite example being the sickle cell anemia, one that we've diagnosed, we've found the genes, we found the fix for the genes, and we can, in as little as one dose, change the biology of the person that is sick that way and allow them to eliminate sickle cell anemia. It's showing great promise and at great expense now. That's my favorite, but I thought we should delve into a couple more. So I made a list here, a couple I want to tell you about. First of all, you've got to have the human genome and really know what that is if you're going to mess with humans. That's coming. It was $3 billion for the first one, and that was 25 years ago. And now we're getting down to where for $100 and maybe $10 soon, we'll be able to do a genetic test. And imagine getting the drugs you need that are made just for your own genetic expression. So that would be a fantastic way to do it. And right now, this field is growing exponentially as every year more and more. There's companies coming out. Moderna, sorry, mispronounced that. Moderna is a company that uses the mRNA technology that they got known for when they were making a vaccine for COVID. But that technology was just ready at that time, fortunately, for them to be able to build something like that. And they're doing a lot of other things with it. The difference from a normal vaccination or normal traditional, the old way of doing it would be to get a cell that is, or cells that are bad, then mixed with cells that are good. And that's done by isolating what the disease is, the germs, whatever, and then neutering them to the point that they can't cause the problem, but they still have the right factors in them so that they can attach to places where you have the disease and screw up the growth of the bad stuff. And this is what basically how antibiotics have worked, all sorts of vaccinations. You may get sick a little bit, but if you can't get the full blown disease because it's the vaccination has been changed from the actual disease. And now with mRNA, they're able to do that in a more or less being able to program your DNA. And the answer is not quite there, but that's the direction they're going with that. And I think we've talked before about CRISPR technology. That's CRISPR. And you can use those cells for all sorts of things. There's research paper by Zhang that says that they're able to detect and respond to Alzheimer's. That would be nice. I don't want to lose my memory. And there's many other treatments on that. But today we're talking about designing and creating a life. Zymergen is a company that is using microbes now to create new materials to replace petrochemicals. So you're worried about having enough oil or running out of it or burning it as a problem. There are replacements that work nearly the same that have been engineered by these companies coming to market, if not here, soon. And a lot of the waste we get, for instance, back to burning oil. If you have a power plant that burns coal and oil or whatever that is dirty, there is a clean way to use those same materials. I believe, this is a little bit of speculation on my part, that even in coal, there are ways to break down the chemicals that make up coal, and to where we can use the energy that's stored in there without emitting the gases that are a problem. And there are companies that are looking at that. Lazatech is now doing things that take that waste gas, say from a jet engine, and just put out something that's cleaner. And they're working on a sustainable aviation fuel. And then I got a couple more I wanted to tell you about. I got a list here. It's the energy that can be done it can be as simple as algae, a very simple biology. We're not talking about animals or plants or just basic algae can be used to treat waste. And it basically, if you look at a wastewater management system or a sewer, you take the bad stuff, it all flows into something and then is processed. A lot of how that is processed is natural bacteria, algae. That's what's going on. And please forgive me, as always, I should say, don't write down words I say and say that's the truth. I'm trying to get the concept across here today, not the actual formulas for the technology, which I clearly do not know about. But if you're able to treat any kind of waste product, you can turn it into something that's inert or even helpful. I've seen how, read and studied how this works with nuclear energy, where there's one of the big complaints about nuclear is, oh no, what will we do with this nuclear waste that's going to be around for 10,000 years? I believe that we will find a way to treat that, to make it less waste to begin with. And actually, the actual waste product, the uranium that's left over, is a relatively small amount of material. The problems we have is that radiates into all sorts of things that it touches. If you use water to cool the system, then that water becomes contaminated. I think we're going to be able to filter and change and do things to that to improve it. And I believe that being able to use synthetic biology, we're going to be able to design just what we need. Imagine giving an AI the parameters that what you want is to be able to take this waste made up of XYZ chemicals and turn it into something that is not harmful to humans. And it'll come up with 1,000 different things to try, and then do all the research to tell you which one's going to work. And the actual experimentation can then be done a lot quicker than the kind of progress we've had before. I think it's undeniably a good thing to be using synthetic biology. And we've talked a little bit about the ethical considerations. Want to say, you can, if you have something that does good, it can also do bad. Two-edged sword. A gun can be used to rob someone or kill someone, and it can also be used to defend your home. And so it's that these considerations have to be in there. I would not say laissez-faire is going to be enough. We need to be watching for this. Again, we have technology now that's going to help us a lot. As anybody is working on any kind of substance, not only do they have to have some licenses and register, when somebody has a lab, you need to be able to inspect and find out what's going in the lab. And even better, we need to be able to sample materials that we find. I saw one program where they planned to be able to put a sensor that would be on your phone or adjacent to your phone and connect to it or something like that. You would be able to tell what the air quality is as you walk around in a city. And they determined that instead of the air quality of the city being X, the air quality of the city is X plus or minus, depending on where you're standing. If you're standing next to an exhaust fume, you would be in worse shape than if you were standing in, say, an open field. That's the obvious, but this technology was going to be able to tell as you walk. We saw it in the COVID reaction as the test became cheap and ubiquitous, so that people could be tested again and again. How that was carried out, there's another ethical consideration, and that's a political or a different type of consideration than I want to talk about. But the actual science that made that possible is fascinating stuff. I imagine that when a new house is built, it now can sense and make sure that what you're breathing is the right kind of air. If anything happens, it has built into it the processes it takes to decontaminate whatever happens. So with those kind of things, I think the future for us living with synthetic biology is we're just going to have a better life. That's what I like to talk about here, how we can achieve abundance for all using emerging technologies, getting it out there, shared, and used by a majority of people in the world, and everybody is going to benefit. And that's my goal here. If you have some questions or concerns that I have missed, please let me know about it. Leave a comment or find me on social media. Best thing to do is to comment where you listen to or watch the program, and we get those comments and respond to them. And I will work on any topic that you want to ask me questions about, because I have the resources, fortunately, to be able to investigate and find many things about my readings, my training, and the meetings I have with new companies in labs and working on what they're going to bring out next. I'm happy to share that all with you. So let me hear from you. Please give us and share this with others so that you can help us get the word out to a lot more people. That's it. This has been Emerging Technology with Warren. I'll see you next time.